Okay, I think we're live.
Yo.
Welcome to the Talkers Game podcast. I'm your host, Ty. And today we have Ken Wall. He's finally back.
Hey, what up? What up? What up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. First of all, I just want to make sure my mic is working well. It's the good one.
Yeah. Yeah, we always got to make sure. We always got to do a
Yeah.
test run.
The last time was a complete disaster, useless audio, but listen, it's all good this time. So, man, how you been? You ready to talk
Good.
games?
Good. Yeah, man. I've been ready. Right now, I'm kind of on like a break from YouTube.
Yeah, because you told me you were. Well, first of all, is this like your second break now?
Yeah, this is I was planning, so I posted that Spider-Man video. It did well. I got a lot of engagement from that, but I
Not
don't
as well
know
as you
if
thought, right?
yeah, not it, and the thing is that isn't what made me decide to go on break. It was just not having the time to edit my videos like how I used to. Like I used to have hours on in the day to edit the video when I was doing this when I was in school. But then when I got the job, I'm trying to balance going to the gym. Then there's
Yeah.
just like little things like, all right, if I have to cook, cooking's taking at least like 2 hours, an hour and a half.
What the hell
I'm
are you
like,
cooking?
bro,
First of
like
all,
I'm trying to cook something good. So I'm trying to learn how to cook like chicken curry, spaghetti, stuff like that. Like so it's a lot of trial and error. So I'm
yeah, I
like,
get you.
dude, damn, like this was it's hard to just try and get everything in the day. And especially
Mhm.
when it comes to editing. Editing is not no, hey, let me edit for an hour and make progress. It's like an hour of editing, you'll get maybe like 2 minutes. You
Yeah, and
may get
the
like two
thing is,
minutes.
I've like your videos are well done. Like, you got that humor in there. You got all the memes and everything. So it takes a little time. I can see.
Yeah, like all of us, man, all of us, because it's you know. But other than that, I've been good. Like I was telling you, I'm trying to play more games,
Hmm.
so that's why I'm getting that Steam Deck.
The Steam Deck, yeah.
I'm hoping it fulfills what I'm looking for. From what I've heard from a lot of people on the internet, they love this thing. So I'm hoping I'll like it the same. I'm
I
hoping
wouldn't
I'll like
mind the
it the
Steam Deck too much. I just don't know if I can justify that price for a handheld. It
same.
seems a bit steep. I'm not really a handheld gamer, and just to kind of like chance it and say, well, I might get a couple of hours in a day. I'm not too
Yeah,
sure. What
that's
I will
true.
say though is I love the idea of it because obviously with the Switch, it's great. You can play your Mario's, your Zeldas, but having a PC in your hands that lets you play this game that we're seeing right now on screen, Baldur's Gate 3,
Exactly.
like that's something right there. So
Right. Like I want to like the idea of it. You're so right. The idea of it really interests me because you're
mhm,
not pigeonholed. These aren't games. These are the games that you want to play. Like
exactly.
there's no barrier to entry with the Steam Deck except for memory. But what I was because I usually before I buy any piece of tech, right, I'm
Mhm.
always doing a bunch of research on it. And the thing that really impressed the hell out of me with the Steam Deck is how customizable it is. So you can buy the first so the first model, the cheapest one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, you can upgrade it to make it beefier than the most expensive model because you can buy an anti-glare
Hmm.
screen protector. Then you could buy a case. Then, most importantly, for the memory, you could just
Hmm.
buy a SD card.
Okay.
So you could do all these things to the Steam Deck, and it's very easy too. Like the SIM card just has a slot. Boom, you open it, put your new one in. That's more memory.
Hmm.
Like
What
there's
kind
there's tons of videos.
Well, what kind of games do you imagine yourself playing on it, right? So, for example, do you see Call of Duty there, or is it just more, turn-based games like, Baldur's Gate, Star Wars Survivor, those kind of games?
So it's definitely gonna be a balance. So what I'm trying to do is take care of my backlog. So games like Hi-Fi Rush, a
Yes.
lot of Game Pass games. I want to play the Yakuza series. So something like that.
Yeah.
I do want to check out Baldur's Gate. I just don't know if I'm willing to spend the full price on it because it's not my game. It's not my type of game. So it's more along the lines of those kind of games, smaller. I just want to play if I want to get
You
something.
want to be a gamer again, basically. You want to play games. You want to get back to the
that's it. That's it. That's it, bro.
Man, listen, I get you. Like my one of my guys, he told me, he's like, you don't even play games no more. Like all you do is talk about games on YouTube, but you don't even play. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. I'm somewhat of a fraud in that regards, right? And he's asking me like, you gonna play Baldur's Gate 3? And because I've been like hyping this game for some time now, and even like before this game came out, I was telling him like, if you had to take any studio to make the next best fantasy open world action adventure game that could stand toe to toe with The Witcher or Dragon Age, the studio you're gonna go for is Larian Studios. Like they're that good. And then Baldur's Gate 3 drops, and he's like, "Yeah, I completely get what you're saying now. Like it just like they're that good." But I can't play this game because, truth be told, it's just too massive. It's one of those games where you stick it on, you can't do 20 hours, you can't do 30, 40, 50. It's something that I'm going to spend like maybe close to 100 hours on or whatever it is. And time-wise, I'm only focused on one game, and that's Starfield. That's the only thing that's going to take up my time. And I think it would be a disservice to Baldur's Gate to start playing it now, because I know for a fact I'm not going to come close to finishing this game when Starfield drops. I just don't got time, as you say, gym, work, cooking curries and shit.
Yeah.
So I don't want to drop this game and then play Starfield, because I ain't dropping Starfield. As soon as that game starts, like it's all Starfield for the rest of the year for me. So yeah.
Yeah, man. It's like I want to talk to you about something along those lines later when we get into discussion. Because
yeah, sure. Man. Listen, we can get to the first topic, which is Baldur's Gate 3, and it's gonna diverse into a couple of talking points, including the Xbox Series S and how Microsoft responds in that regard. This idea of should parity be a thing? But Baldur's Gate has done crazy numbers, right? So a report from Games Rant shows Baldur's Gate 3 is closing in on Hogwarts Legacy's record number of concurrent Steam players. This development illustrates how the fandom has been quick to embrace Larian Studios' latest title, which is currently sitting at 95 on Metacritic. And I'll put this to you. Number one, did you see this coming at all? Did you imagine Baldur's Gate 3, this CRPG game, was going to do these kind of numbers?
So yes and no. Yes.
I mean, that seems like a cop-out answer.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm gonna play it safe.
True. All right. You got me. So no, because I didn't give. This was not on my radar at all, bro. This you know me, Ty. It's fantasy. I'm out. I'm out with anything fantasy like this. Dungeons and Dragons, I'm good with. So I heard Baldur's Gate was coming out, obviously, because just going on news websites, Video Game Chronicles, all those, I'm seeing it pick up steam at the end of July, because the previews and the reviews are starting to come out. So other than that, that's the only time I saw Baldur's Gate. So no, I did not see it. But the only reason why I was like, yeah, that makes sense that it did that kind of numbers is because of the genre. It's Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah.
Sorry about that. Man, this cough is crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, I got a cough too. I've been having a coffee.
Yeah, it's like, but anyways, yeah. No, you're right. I don't think many people imagined this, right? So, did I know it was going to be a great game? Yes, 100%. Did I know it was going to do crazy numbers? Good. Did I think it was going to be, concurrent with Hogwarts Legacy, in that regard? No. But I think people forget that this game sold, I think, 2 million before it actually released. Like this was, this game was in early access. The PC community is in love with this game, so I wish it was going to do good. These kind of numbers, not so much. And I did hear someone, I was watching Game on Daily, and somebody talked about how they feel like this game is going to blow everything out of the water. It's going to blow Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy from a sales perspective and Metacritic perspective. And the only thing I'll defend or I'll agree with is the Metacritic point of view. This game can get higher than Zelda or the same mark as Zelda or Diablo, any of these games, right? From a sales perspective, I'll put this one to you as well. It's trending well, but you don't believe that this game is going to, from a sales perspective, take down a Starfield or Spider-Man 2 or any of the other big games, like let's say even a Diablo, for example, right?
So it sold 2 million copies in early access. It's, for the most part, I don't think it will reach that. You're right, because of it being tied down to only being on PC and PlayStation. It doesn't have that Xbox. And did Hogwarts Legacy come out on the Switch yet, or no?
No, not yet. But I think the point you're even like Hogwarts Legacy, it is an open world action adventure game, whereas Baldur's Gate is a turn-based game. And listen, I think it's doing really good. I think it's doing great. But I think the fact that it's turn-based, it's a CRPG game, classic RPG game, I think that will hinder it. What it has done though, it has risen up to the PlayStation 4's, the PS5's pre-order list. It's the top pre-ordered game right now. So there is some knock-on effect, but I don't see it doing crazy numbers. Like for example, Microsoft stated in the court findings that they're missing out on 10 million PlayStation 5 sales on Starfield. Like that's what they estimate.
Gosh.
I don't see Baldur's Gate 3 doing 10 million sales on PS5. I don't see it doing 10 million sales on Xbox either. So
yeah, because PlayStation, I think a lot of PlayStation players that are pre-ordering this game, a lot of it is due to the hype, kind of like Elden Ring.
Yes.
And I think some of them are going to get a rude awakening when they play the game, because turn-based isn't for everyone. And for most PlayStation players, I don't think that's the type of game they're into.
Yeah, I would agree with that too as well. Like, listen, I played Divinity Original Sin 2, and it's an amazing game, gameplay wise, but it's not for everyone. That's one thing, it's not for everyone. I do think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to kind of, in the same way Elden Ring introduce people to this type of hardcore Souls-like game. I do think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to reintroduce people into CRPG games. Hopefully it has a knock-on effect. People start checking out Divinity Original Sin 2, they check out Pillars of Eternity and the other games, because there's a lot of them, to be honest. But let's switch gears to something a little bit more spicy, right? let's talk about the Xbox Series S controversy, if you want to call it or not. So Baldur's Gate 3 is releasing on September the 6th, I believe, the exact same day as Starfield, which in itself is a different discussion. But there is no Xbox release date. And the reason why has been stated because of the Xbox Series S parity issue. They're having a hard time running Baldur's Gate 3, the co-op mode in specific, on the Xbox Series S. And due to Xbox's clause, Microsoft's clause, that everything has to be parity between the Xbox Series X and S, Baldur's Gate has been delayed indefinitely to around 2024, which by default gives PlayStation 5 a timed exclusive. Now, MBG from Twitter, engaging in his console wars. I don't even follow that dude, but like, he has some irritating takes for sure. But he stated, that hey, this is a console exclusive game. Ha ha ha, Xbox. And Seven, I can't really pronounce his name, but basically the communications director, I believe, for Lyron Studios came out and said it's not exclusive. He shut him down pretty bad. And then I saw a lot of people like tweeting, like laughing at him, etc., etc., etc. And the first thing that came to my mind was, but he's wrong though. MBG is right. This is a time exclusive. Like, what are you talking about? So I guess listen, there's a lot to unpack there. But I guess the first part I'll put to you is, do you think the Xbox Series S, first and foremost, is an issue? And I guess we can put it in this context. This is the early days of the generation. Everything was cross-platform. We're gonna start getting into these games where they're gonna be exclusive for the PS5, and it's not gonna be just graphics. It's not gonna be how sexy your game looks. Yeah. There's gonna be elements that is important. And I think Phil Spencer said it himself. It's not gonna be about how many polygons are on screen. It's gonna be how many enemies you can fit on screen. How much are the ray tracing on all these enemies. These are going to be the important elements. And now we might have an example, and maybe it might be isolated. I'm going to put it to you. Is the Xbox Series S going to be an issue, in your opinion, going forward?
Oh, man, consoles are not as simple as we thought, like straight up, because I'm seeing so many drawbacks to like these consoles. Because to answer the question, yes, I do. There have been not rumors, but there have been developers coming out and saying this. I think there was a Rocksteady developer that came out when Gotham Knights first announced that they couldn't run the game at 60 frames per second. And he was speculating that it was due to the Series S. Then I think someone from Remedy came out and said something about the Xbox Series S causing problems in the future, because it's not, no matter what you do, it's not as strong. It's supposed to be like a mid-generation restart, right? So I never liked the idea of Xbox doing that. I'm now starting to actually like what Sony's doing with the PlayStation Pro and that type of model. You should have a model that is equipped for everything, and then you should have a boutique model that is made for the hardcore people that want to be able to run everything flawlessly. This is going to cause problems, especially when it comes to not Starfield, but other Bethesda games. Like, I don't understand if Elder Scrolls 6 is going... We know Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be massive.
Yeah.
What the hell are they going to do with that game? And we're going to see this thing. We're going to see a lot of overlap with a lot of games, because you saw how Jedi Survivor is somehow going to get ported backwards.
That's not a talking point.
That was weird. So it's really frustrating with these consoles, because they always come out, and honestly, it's our fault at the end of the day. Every time they come out, oh, this is going to change game design. These consoles are super uber spectacular with performance and yada yada yada.
You're speaking from a very PC focus,
like,
now, I can tell.
Yeah, like, because every time they always talk about this stuff, I'm like, I get it that most casual gamers, which are usually going to buy a console, they don't care about that stuff. But to me, I feel that has changed a little bit. I think more casual gamers are more inept to that kind of stuff. That's not a deal breaker for them per se, but they do know about performance and fidelity.
Well, you
And
see, I think Microsoft's argument would be when it comes to performance and fidelity is that gamers don't actually really care about the all the crazy graphics. As soon, for me, as soon as I play a game, I'm going straight for performance. I want the 60 frames per second. But there's a lot of people out there who actually probably don't care.
yeah,
But to go back to the Series S point, about it being a problem, I think it's an interesting one because is it really isolated, or is there an element of it being this is going to be a problem going forward? And I think anyone who tries to give an answer, yes or no, I think is just wrong. Nobody actually really knows. We know the guys at Lion have said, hey, listen, this isn't holding back the gen. It's not holding it back. It just needs to be optimized more. So I think maybe it's even somewhere in the middle where it's not really causing a problem, but there is time and effort when it comes to the optimization part of things, which then makes me think about it from a different point of view. Was Microsoft right to go down this approach? Because I was looking at some recent some articles, and Jim Ryan basically said, yeah, we thought about it too, but it doesn't work because it's way too much hassle, way too much problems, and gamers just want a powerful console. They don't want a console that they need to upgrade, shortly. Now, I don't know if that's so true because a lot of people actually do migrate to the Pro as well, right? But he might have a point. It causes problems and a hassle. And I think the only platform holders that can get away with that kind of like stress are the leading ones. But if you're third place, that might not have been a smart move. What's your take?
I don't think it's a smart move because I'm not saying that the big publishers could do this, but we know Xbox sales compared to PlayStation is to the point where Square Enix doesn't even care about releasing their games on Xbox. And this could be an exaggeration, but those smaller publishers, those smaller developers, who's to say that they go like, you know what? Let's bite the bullet. Let's delay the Xbox version. Let's come out with a console version, which is going to be the PlayStation, and just release it on PC. I think will be good enough. And Baulders Gate can show that. It already is. How do you when I saw that news, I could not believe that Xbox, PlayStation just got a free exclusive, bro. I've never seen that in gaming ever. That they just got a free exclusive for nothing.
Bizarre.
And this, we thought, I remember when there was rumors Spider-Man 2 was going to come out around Starfield. And people were like, nah, it's fine because even if they do come out around the same time, they're two different games. And it's like, all right, true. I still think it would have messed some things up. But this is a direct competitor.
Yeah.
This is like, all right, it's RPG. It's a turn-based RPG, but still, this is as close as you're going to get. And this was just something I know Sony is flipping out right now. They are popping bottles. They are celebrating because this was a massive win.
I mean, on Metacritic, it's in the 90s. It's a win.
What? This is something this is what I really realized during the battle for getting Activision. Xbox is really, to me, they're really down bad. They got to pick it up with some of these things that they say don't matter when in actuality it does, because they made themselves direct competitors to PlayStation. That's the problem. They haven't carved out their own niche like Nintendo, where they don't have to compete with PlayStation. Xbox has to compete with PlayStation. So that means you got to compete with games, performance, all these things. And I get it. You don't want to do that, but you got to do a better job then of doing something else, which I don't think you are. You're not selling games. Granted, I think there's less of a player base on Xbox, which goes into the fact that there's less completed. It goes into the fact that people complete games less on Xbox. It's like it's so many things that Xbox is dealing with that they need to start getting on it.
You know, I because remember, like I remember some time ago, right? We were talking about Xbox, and I was telling you, like, you know what, Xbox actually ain't so bad. Like, the truth is, they have games, but it's just not coming out specific times. And I remember specifically you were saying, like, no, and I did that video where I went into like details on all their studios, and I went to details on all their studios, and I said, you know what, they actually have reasons why these games aren't out, so it's perfectly fine, it's okay. But with this Baulders Gate situation, my mind has kind of altered a little bit, right? And it's not because what I said there wasn't true. It is true. But I guess the question is why? Why is it that this is happening? Because the truth is somebody should have been there to mitigate this. So, for example, like when people say, like, well, it doesn't really matter because it's going to be Starfield or whatever it is, you know, like Baldur's Gate 3, no one really cares about it. It's about optics. And I look at 2022, and there's 5 games that, you know, were nominated for Game of the Year. You have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is okay. We can just put that to the side. That's a Nintendo exclusive. That's fine. Then you got 4 games, and in those 4 games, 3 of them are exclusive to the PlayStation ecosystem. So Sony can boast 4 to 5 games that are nominated for the Game of the Year awards. You can get them on our platform, and 3 of those are exclusive. Those optics just looks good. Then you look at the green side, which is the Xbox side. There's only 1 game, which is a multi-platform game. That was nominated for Game of the Year. That was nominated for Game of the Year, and it's on the Xbox ecosystem, and that's Elden Ring. And it's just a bad look. But then you say, okay, fine. You know what? Let's move on to 2023. And now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, Final Fantasy is going to be nominated. I'm pretty sure of that. Spider-Man 2 is going to be nominated. I'm pretty sure of that. Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be nominated. I'm pretty sure of that. That's 3 PS5 console exclusives that's going to be nominated for Game of the Year awards. And then maybe the 4th one is going to be obviously Zelda. And the 5th one is going to be Starfield. So again, it looks like Xbox is going to have 1 game that's nominated at the Game of the Year awards. Now, that game could win it. That's a win. But why does PlayStation have 3? They should only have 2. But you messed up on Baldur's Gate. That's why I'm just so baffled. Like, why do you make these mistakes? Like, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's I don't know. It's bizarre.
Like Coffee I get what you mean, but what should they do then? That like, because Xbox doesn't have to compete with PlayStation by doing the same thing PlayStation does. But what would they do? Because they're really boxed in. Because this year, Starfield is not going to erase what Tears of the Kingdom did, what Baldur's Gate did, what Resident Evil, Dead Space, all these games that came out earlier in the year. Starfield, when it comes out, it's not going to just go like move out the way. People are still going to remember those games. So it's like Xbox, it's still being overcrowded. I just think they definitely need more hi-fi rushes. Just those games that deliver, but they gotta find their own quality level that meets the standards of a casual gamer.
Yeah,
because PlayStation is checking everything off. Like they're really hitting on all cylinders right now. If they can get a multiplayer, it's gonna be very hard. It's gonna be very hard for someone to switch over to Xbox.
You know, even like speaking on PlayStation, because you know one of the talking points we're gonna talk about is PlayStation's 5 40 million units. But before that, um, I wanted to put it to you and say, because I saw this as well, because this is going to be a little bit of console war going on, because I've seen a lot of shit on Twitter, and I can't remember his name, but he specifically said that Xbox gets a lot of flack, whereas PlayStation gets a pass a lot. And he mentioned how, for example, Destiny 2 hasn't been doing
yeah,
that hot.
I saw this.
Yeah. And his response, Destiny 2 wasn't doing that hot. And, if this was Xbox, they would have got abused, blah, blah, blah. But it's PlayStation, so nobody cares. So I'll put it to you. Why do you think that is? And why is it that when Xbox messes up, it's highlighted? When PlayStation screws up, it's a pass, or we just kind of skip over it.
So I think that was. Were you talking about David Jaffe? I think that was David Jaffe.
His response. Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically. I'm gonna agree with what he's saying. Say basically what he's saying. So it's like the bad child. The bad child. He's getting Fs. He's getting in trouble. When your reputation precedes you. So when that bad child does something bad, it's gonna be like, dude, what are you doing, man? Get your shit together. It's gonna be a whole thing. But then when the good child he's doing his thing, getting A's, staying out of trouble, good person, doing all these things, they mess up that one time. Mm-hmm. You know that mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. But it's like Xbox has a lot. Xbox has a whole generation where they messed up. A whole generation where they messed up. And they just lost everyone's goodwill because it was that long. So Sony, yes, it's hypocritical to a degree, but they've put out quality games for decades. Their games don't come incomplete. Halo Infinite. They're like you get what you pay for, more or less, with a Sony product. So that's why. Like I honestly, there's no argument. It is hypocritical, but there's more nuance to it. There's a basically reason why
it's deserved, is what you're basically saying.
Yeah, it's deserved. You give us all this stuff for so long, then of course we're gonna go like, you know what? We'll just let it slide.
Yeah, K. Santos says development between the two consoles are different, and since PlayStation has the bigger pool, no one uses the tools Xbox has to make it shine. Xbox needs to prove their tech by using it. I think he's right, because when Xbox says we have the most powerful console, I don't think they're lying. They're not joking around. They actually mean it.
I believe them, because the Xbox, what was it? The Xbox One X was, I think, more powerful than the PS4 Pro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. And as Kia Santos says, they're not the market leader, so nobody wants to use these tools. Nobody wants to spend time. And actually, and I also believe, for example, if Xbox had the marketing rights for Baulders Gate 3, I think you actually see, they actually put a lot more effort into the Series S build, and you see drop this year. But because they're third place, because they have probably, I think they might have the marketing rights, so they're not the market leader. You see the situation where it's gonna come out in 2024 instead, which is another L. But yeah, let's move on to. I know you have some topics you wanted to bring up. I don't know if you wanted to if they're similar to the ones we've been talking about.
It's it has something to do with Baulders Gate, but not really. It was what you said earlier about it being so massive.
Okay.
But
Okay. So I mean, we can get into that, because this next one is just going to be about PlayStation 5. So yeah, let's get into Baulders Gate.
Okay.
Shoot your question.
So you were saying that you were kind of intimidated by it because of how large it was. Yeah. Now, it was funny. I was biting my tongue when you were like, "Yo, Final Fantasy 16 should be nominated for Game of the Year," because I was talking my shit about that game. I was like, "Yo, this game is amazing." So I'm like, "Nah, dog. That game is too long, bro. Like that game is too long. Like I'm tired of. I like games how we could play around with the length. We can have games that are small that are still great as the big games that are over 30 plus hours. But I think, especially when it comes to AAA developers really need to stop trying to justify the AAA-ness by the length of the game, because it's really causing a hindrance, in my opinion. Where I'm like, nah, bro, I don't know about this. When I was a kid, I felt like games needed to be longer. That was the wave. But then when I got older, I'm like, whoa, I got shit to do, bro. Like, this can't be taking this much amount of time. And I can't be, because I bought Final Fantasy 16 when it came out. Granted, I went on trips, so that got in the way. But me and my brother are still trying to beat that game. We're close. We're on like the last section of it. But, yo, it's August 8th. I was expecting this game to be done in the middle of July.
Yeah.
And when we play for at least 3 to 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about these AAA games being long? Do you like them being 20 plus hours, or do you like it being between 10 to 15?
So I'll be straight up with you. I've had this discussion numerous times with people, and I always disagree. I always agree and disagree. Like you, right? I tell them, like, listen, I don't like these games. I don't mind games that are big. I understand they're daunting, and I perfectly think it's okay for a game to be huge and massive and have all these open worlds. You just need to be crystal clear with the story. The world can be bloated. The story doesn't have to be bloated. I don't want a bloated story. I want to be able to get into Starfield and finish the game in 40 hours or 35, whatever. I don't want a game where I have to play 85 hours just to finish the story. Now, if I want to go do side missions, that's on me. So I'm expanding the game. It's by my choice. So my critique with Assassin's Creed, which is, I think it's the worst of the worst, is they just bloat the story so much, and I'm like, yo, I'm just repeating myself now. I'm going here, I'm saving you. I'm going there, I'm saving you. It's just repetitive. And if they had just cut some of those missions down a bit shorter, it would have been perfect. So for me, Final Fantasy, I guess my main question would be, is the side stories, is the main story just long, or is the side stories like, okay, you know what, that's what makes the game something.
So the main story, like, people, I don't know, I think they're moving the goalposts a little bit. The side stuff, I don't enjoy at all. It's like, go here. It's pretty much fetch quests. Not all of them are fetch quests, but there's a good amount that are, where they tell you where to go, you go to it, there's an enemy, you fight, and then you go back. It's something very simple as that. And then the main story, there'd be a cutscene where you first get to the level, right? So the level opens up with a cutscene. Boom, okay. Then you keep walking. You walk, you start getting to an environment, you fight a little, cutscene. And it's like the most pointless cutscene that could have been done in game with some dialogue. But no, they interrupt it with a cutscene. And then every time, like, if you're doing a fetch quest, they'll have a whole grand exposition before. That will be at least a 10-minute cutscene just to stop you. And then they'll let you play.
I've heard about it, to be honest, when people weren't too happy with it. And I think it's like, again, I couldn't play Final Fantasy now. I couldn't play Baulders Gate 3 now. I don't know. I could probably play Jedi Survivor to an extent. I just don't have time for these games, because my main focus is just going to be Starfield, right? And even if Starfield wasn't available, I need to be I need to love a game these days to invest that much hours into it. I can't think your game is good to okay and see like my runtime and it's telling me 55 hours. No, I'm sorry. Like, I need to love you for me to give that much time into you. So that's my thing right there with these big massive open world games.
Okay, yeah. Some games can justify it. A lot can't. A lot can't.
So let's move on to another talking point, which is, it's we talk about Xbox not doing so well, and well, they're actually doing well, to be honest with you. I think this is one of the best years they've had, and they're certainly doing better than the Xbox 360 generation, which was probably their best. But we know PlayStation 5 is doing extremely well, and Sony has announced it sold over 40 million PlayStation 5 consoles despite the unprecedented challenges of COVID and supply chain issues. And I guess, is this expected? Like, this is actually just slightly below what the PS4 was doing. So we can say it's probably expected. Now, obviously, they're going to tout the fact that, like, hey, COVID happened, supply chains, or we would have sold way more, if these events didn't occur. But is this, I don't want to say justified because, they obviously earned it. But can you see why the PS5 has done 40 million units? Like, are you impressed so far with their offerings this gen?
Yeah, I'm really impressed because I did think going into this console generation, Xbox was gonna have a little bit of a bigger presence with the Xbox Series console, especially because the way it looks, it's good. It's compact. It's not as loud, meaning that like it's not a huge thing in your living room compared to the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be more of that, but I'm really, I don't know why, but personally, I'm really surprised with how well the PlayStation 5 is doing, especially when it comes to how well the Switch is doing. Because the Switch is that's the head honcho, but the PlayStation is really holding its own, and it really solidifies that like when it comes to gaming, even if you're a casual gamer, you're gonna go with a PlayStation. You're just that's the default with a lot of people. And it shows because with COVID, there have been games coming out, but not as much, especially compared to the end of the PlayStation 4. PlayStation has had some. We've seen some of the cracks, but again, we're hardcore. The hardcore people are seeing the cracks within Sony, but the casuals are just coming in, and Sony has done a great job with its offerings when it comes to the subscription. I think that could be a contributor as to why there's so many sales with the PlayStation 5.
And in comparison, for example, Xbox is around the 20 plus million unit mark, right? Which effectively puts it at around 2-1, which is basically how the last gen ended. And now, two questions for you. One of them is a bit easier than the other ones. Can you understand, based on how PlayStation, as you just said, everything about PlayStation, they bring out the games, the subscription service model, as you mentioned. Can you see why it's currently 2-1 at this moment, around 2-1 for Xbox to PlayStation? That's the first question. And the second question is, do you think it will stay 2-1 for the foreseeable future? So at some point, PS5 will be at 90 million sales, and the Xbox Series consoles will be at 45 or so. Or do you think that changing very soon? So yeah, you can go for the first one.
So, okay, shit. All right, so this is gonna be my prediction. I think it will stay that way because it's crazy to believe we're actually approaching the halfway point of this console generation already, even though it doesn't feel like that. And Xbox has had its first big title, like, no, not its first, but because Halo Infinite.
No, let's say it's his first.
Yeah, okay. All right. You'll give me that.
I ain't counting Halo Infinite. That game is trash.
That game is trash. But yeah, like I would say. Oh, okay, all right. I would say Halo. I still have to include Halo
go ahead.
Because of its brand. So besides Halo, Starfield's coming out now. We've only had one big Xbox exclusive. We've had Spider-Man Miles Morales, Returnal. We've had again Final Fantasy 16. PlayStation has had Horizon Forbidden West. The Xbox is going to I think I'm not hating on Xbox. I think after Starfield though, that's where things are going to change. But in terms of people buying an Xbox and migrating to Xbox, that's going to take longer. And again, your reputation precedes you. You're going to need consistent drops, which I think they can do because the E3, their Xbox conference, they got some. They're loading up their clip. So they just got to deliver.
I think I think we're gonna be in a. It's funny because first you were like, nah, it's gonna stay 2-1. Now you're like, oh, actually, no, it's probably not gonna stay 2-1.
No. I still for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X generation, it's gonna stay 2-1. Oh, wow, I believe it's gonna stay 2-1. Something like that needs. I think that's long term for that to change.
That's a hot take. I might have to clip that and pull out as a short. Like,
hey, all right.
Look at this pony over here talking. Man, okay. So I mean, I disagree with that take, but I can see why people think that because initially this generation, I didn't 2-1 it wasn't even close. Like my mind was saying there was no way it's even going to even reach that, right? And unfortunately, that's what it looks like right now. But there's a few reasons why I think that's going to change. Number one, it's 2-1 because the truth is Xbox just has no games. They haven't released anything. They haven't given you a reason to even get a next gen console. Like I've always harped on about
man,
this.
What about Pentiment? Pentiment, man.
I can't forget about Pentiment, man. That's exactly what it's all about. Like, they dropping God of War, Horizon, and we dropping Pentiment. Coffee says, we skip Horizon 5. Hive versus Flight Sim. This is madness.
Those aren't zeitgeist games. They're not something that start. That's not something that will. See on
the only reason
Twitter trending.
The only reason why Coffee is not on this podcast right now is because he's going to debate you on this point, and I don't have time to listen to both of you go back and forth. But you guys can fight each other maybe in a couple of days or so. We'll do this again.
You gotta talk.
But the thing is, like, they just nothing that they necessarily dropped that was amazing. Like I've always said it, and the Xbox is third, and their launch game was nothing. Halo Infinite was supposed to be that game. That game didn't launch. That game has problems. Sony has given you a reason to get a PS5 in terms of Returnal, not Dead Space, sorry.
Ratchet and Clank?
No. Ratchet and Clank is one too as well. Returnal, Ratchet and Clank. Those are exclusive to the next gen. And that's not Dead Space. Damn. The From Software game.
Bloodborne.
Not Bloodborne. The remake. Dark Souls remake. Demon Souls remake. Yeah. Those are 3 exclusive games, and then I think that's it right there. Like they're actually saying, hey, listen, we're gonna support the previous gen, the cross gen, so we're gonna put Horizon Forbidden West and God of War. But we're also gonna give you reasons to get a next gen console. And for Sony, as for Xbox, they just really didn't. I think Flight Simulator is probably the only game that they've done that with. And then obviously Sony went to go get Ghostwire Tokyo and then Deathloop, which I believe both of those games are also next gen exclusive games. So once again, they're giving you a reason why you should get a PS5. I'm looking at my Xbox Series X and S, and it hits me. It's like, hey, if I didn't buy an Xbox Series X and I just got an Xbox One, I would still be fine. Now, Starfield is dropping, so that's going to be different. But before that, I would have been fine. I think that's the problem. Yeah, Coffee says Demon Souls. Thanks, man. And I think that's the problem that I see with Xbox, and I see, okay, now I see that 2-1. But after Starfield drops, then we got Hellblade. Then we got, Clockwork. Then we got, Midnight the game by compulsion games. Listen, we just got a shit ton of games coming out from Xbox, and I think that's the difference right there. That's when that 2-to-1 is going to start slimming down a little bit more. And I think I don't know if Sony is countering that, because Sony is focusing on live service games. I think they're going to make more money, but I think they're not going to make those games that's going to drive people to the PlayStation platform. And I think that's when we start to see that gap, that 2-to-1 gap, minimize a bit more, because Xbox focus is now exclusive AAA blockbuster games, whereas Sony is saying, we want the live service games, give us the money. That's where I see the gap. That's why I see the gap close.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we could, man, we could talk about this forever, bro. Because all I'm gonna say is there's still new IPs. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for them to convince the casuals to come over.
I don't know. I think Game Pass, new IPs, old IPs, Activision, Blizzard, Call of Duty. I don't know. I think Microsoft is in a position to kind of close that gap. I'm gonna initially my assessment was they will get extremely close to PlayStation this generation. I'm gonna tweak that a little bit and say they might not get too close, but they're gonna get close enough. It's not gonna be 2-to-1 for sure. So yeah, I'm still on that boat. We got a few more topics to talk about. Listen, you can throw some topics, but I guess we can talk about Square Enix, seeing as you're playing Final Fantasy right now. Don't know if you've heard or you've seen, but the Square Enix latest earnings report shows that the operating profit dropped by 79%. Now there's a good bit to unpack here. But there's a report basically saying, I don't know if it's really confirmed, but it was saying that one of the reasons why is because, that I think the Square Enix CEO said that maybe the PlayStation 5's adoption rate was quite small, hence the fact that they didn't sell too many games. And instantly, once again, I saw the console wars going at it. People saying, well, you should have dropped it on Xbox. You should have dropped it on Xbox. Do you think this game, if it dropped on the Xbox, it would have been different? Or are you over the opinion like, no, this game was always not going to reach its sales target? End of story. No Xbox or no Xbox.
All right.
Is the issue with the game itself, or is the issue with the lack of platforms, or is it a bit of both?
I think it's hard because I wish I had some data to relate to when it comes to other like how much.
Well, I think it sold if I remember, I think it sold around 3 million or a couple of millions in its first couple of days. But
what about like
previous Final Fantasy sold more, so 2 million more, I believe, and that came out on all platforms. I think PC and Xbox as well. So from a sales perspective, it sold less and probably cost more to make as well, obviously. And I guess the reason why I always find this conversation interesting is because I don't know if it's I'm looking at the Square Enix accountants and I'm like, I think it's on them.
That's what I believe. That's you go.
I think it's on them because if they didn't succeed on PlayStation, Xbox wasn't going to say that is a good take. Yeah. I think the Square accountants are messing up here because the way I'm looking at it is pretty simple. I don't want to see, like, if a game comes out on Xbox Game Pass, I don't want to see any developer say the game didn't sell that well because of Xbox Game Pass. No. Because that's not the way this works. Fool. Like, I don't know. I just get so irritated. For me, it's quite simple. You reach out. If you expect to sell 100 copies of your game and you're going to put your game on Game Pass, you only end up selling 70. Xbox has to pay you for that 30. Like, it has to be accounted for in some way. Your game shouldn't be on Game Pass if you're losing out. It should be a mutual beneficial thing, or you're just benefiting straight up. And it's the same thing with a timed exclusive game. The reason why you should take a deal like that, a timed exclusive game, especially for an IP like Final Fantasy, is because Sony has paid you well enough to cover the potential losses. Shouldn't be saying this game should have dropped on PC, this game should have dropped on Xbox, and it would have done more. No, Sony has covered that bill. And if they haven't, it's because your accountants or your sale projections were so off. So like, I just get so irritated when I hear people kind of talk about it in this sense. They're like, oh, well, it should have been on Xbox. It's like, no, it should have been covered. In the same way, High on Life was an Xbox Game Pass game, and it got delayed, and it didn't release on the PS4 or PS5 or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Xbox paid them enough money to forego that. They shouldn't be turning around saying, well, if we released on the PS5, we would have made more money. It's like, no, fool. You get your account in order. But anyways, that's kind of my take on it, which is quite similar to coffee.
Isn't this the second time? No, this is like, how many times have they had projections that they were like, oh, we expected this to sell more? They had it with Avengers. They had it with Guardians of the Galaxy,
as well,
and then they had it with Outriders.
I think even Deus Ex didn't meet their expectations.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider didn't meet their expectations.
Yeah, it's like,
meet their expectations.
What do you mean? So my thing is, I do think some of it has to do with the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that length. The length is crazy. It's long. It's a long ass game, and when I say it. So it has these bombastic, devil may cry, balls to the wall action scenes, right? Action set pieces, right? When it's the boss. After that, when they like blew their budget, the game comes to a halt, which is what I'm talking about, what I was talking about earlier, Ty, where there's cutscenes, relentless cutscenes, there's fetch quests. You're just listening to dialogue where you have to skip. So I do think that Square Enix their games tend to not do well because the game itself is not that great.
I'm gonna clip that too as well.
Like I don't know, because that's a hard way to prove that, but like, I'm just going off of Avengers. That was a good game.
I think you're onto something there a little bit, right? But I think the main issue here might be that their overhead or their operating margins are just too high.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if these publishers are looking at Square Enix and they're looking at games like Guardians of the Galaxy, Deus Ex, they're saying to themselves, yeah, this game is costing like whatever 150 million to make it, right? But we analyzing it, and it shouldn't cost 150 million. You guys, some way, like, you guys are not being efficient. You're overspending here, and maybe that's the issue right there.
Protocol
could be like that too as well, because you're looking at that game and you're probably thinking, like, should it cost that much? Like, does it like really? That's a lot of money for that game, right? So I think maybe that's what's going on here with Square. Because basically, like, they spend a lot of money on these games, but it's just not making that much money back. It's not making the money that they expect, I think. So yeah, that's a Square issue. Listen, there was I had some Assassin's Creed conversation that I was supposed to have with the other guys as well, and I said, okay, no, I'm gonna just push it to the side. I wanted to talk about it's not a controversial opinion or topic, but it was about the potential leak that Yasuke, the Black Samurai, will be the main protagonist in Japan. I saw some back and forth on Twitter about that. People saying, like, why is that the case? And I thought it was a very interesting question, because I definitely see it from the typical assassin side. Hey, you're in the United States, you're playing as an American. You're in Egypt, you're playing as an Egyptian. You're in Greece, you're playing as a Greek, etc., etc., etc. So I wanted to get you two other guys. I was like, oh, we're gonna have a nice diverse panel on this topic, on this racial situation. But they all bailed out. I mean, they didn't bail out. They were sick and stuff, so they couldn't make it. But I think we'll kind of pause that one for another time. And if you're interested, I mean, I would definitely love to have your take on that as well. So
of course.
And Coffee, you too as well. We could do this in a couple of days if you're interested. I'm good for it. If you're busy, just let me know.
When do you think? Because this weekend, I'm gonna be pretty busy this weekend.
I could try. I'll hit up the other guys, and we could try to do it in a couple of days, maybe.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Sunday should work. Sunday should work.
Okay, we'll do. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Coffee, Kiasante, anyone else who's watching this podcast. Ken Wall. I will leave your I'll leave your details in the description, but tell the people where they can find you and tell them about your channel.
All right. You can find me on YouTube, same name, Ken Wall. You could also find me on TikTok, where I post shorter length videos, more hot takes, quick, digestible content, more catered to more news outside of what I post on my YouTube, which is open world game news, superhero games, and video essays where I go deeper into other gaming topics. Ty, of course, thank you, my brother. It's always a great time talking games.
It's always great having you on, man.
Because you're the only person I know who can keep up. Like, you're the only person I know who can talk to. Like, I try and talk to my brothers, but I
ain't that deep for them.
Do most of. Hold on, what? Oh, okay, I got you. 1 second. Yeah, so sorry for the interruption. Yeah, man, I be trying to keep them up to speed with what's going on, but it's hard, especially when they're not into it as much as you. So it's always a great time talking with you, bro.
Yeah, man. Listen, likewise, I'm feeling assured. Coffee, you'll be on in a couple of days or the end of the week, and I think this thing Gamescom is coming. Gamescom is coming up soon as well. I got a Starfield topic I want to talk about with you guys as well. So definitely, anyone watching, look out for that. I'll leave maybe 2-day update on when that's going to take place. So yeah, once again, thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate it.
All right, yo, Ty, you already know we gotta. I'll DM you. I'll DM.
Cool, man.